Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of The Devil Zone and our season ender. I am joined this evening by Asa and Jack. Hi Asa, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Bradley. Evening everyone. How are we?
Yeah, we're all good. Evening Jack, you alright?
Yeah, I'm alright. How are you guys tonight?
Better than we were this time last week, so that's all good, isn't it? That's all we're looking for. So let's cut to the chase. EFL football next season, which is huge. Got a bit hairy at moments on Saturday. There was a lot of people around me checking scores, and there was a lot of WhatsApps flying around with scores. And it was getting a little tight at one stage. Don't think I felt 100% confident until the final whistle went. What about you, Asa?
I don't think any of us were confident until the final whistle went. It was very much a roller coaster. I think at half time we were 20th because Tranmere were losing and Newport were losing. So and then it was up and down. It was quite a stressful day, but the ending
Final
was
day.
amazing. Yeah, of course.
Classic final day. Jack, were you worried at any point, or did you kind of always feel like it was going to happen, that we would stay up?
Last week's pod, I was nervous. I was nervous coming into final day. It was that kind of day where usually it was then like let the other teams go do their stuff, check on the scores later. But that was a day where you had to check the scores to see if we were staying up or not. And thankfully, until
we had to, because
yeah.
Johnny Russell kept asking.
The players want to know. They need motivation.
And look, from the minute I sat down in my seat, I was getting alerts on my Apple Watch saying I had a high heart rate, and the game hadn't even started yet. The only other time that's happened was at Wembley for the first goal. We jumped around and my watch said, "Have you had a fall? Would you like us to call emergency services?" So that was quite interesting. But the game itself, I think we needed a point, right? We needed a point. It was a really, really strange game from sort of where I was sat. And I mean, look, we were there. We spoke to the players on their way in on Saturday. You know, Jay had said that he wanted to know what was happening to potentially use that as a case to wind them up as well. Everyone was in sort of good spirits, and it really, the atmosphere was incredible. I'd say that. I think first and foremost, that's the best atmosphere I've known since the first leg against MK Dons at the Broadfield. It was absolutely rocking. The game itself, it was scrappy, wasn't it? It felt like a relegation battle. I don't think we ever looked massively out of place. It didn't feel like a top of the table versus sort of bottom of the table clash. It just sort of swung a bit this way, swung a bit that way. They maybe had the more clear-cut chances. I mean, I looked at FOTMob before tonight, and it said we had 2 big chances. They had 5 big chances. And FOTMob gave Jacob Chapman man of the match again. He did, he made a few saves. They hit the bar. We definitely rode our luck a little bit at times. I felt a draw was a fair result, Asa. I don't know about you.
I think, you touched on it there. I think they probably edged it slightly in terms of chances. I thought first half, they probably had the better share of possession, I'd say, potentially. Second half, it did open up more. I think it became very much more end-to-end. I think their manager, was very critical that they missed their sort of chances. I know there was a big one. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Ado, who sort of... It should have been a tap-in, really, and he sort of... I think he miscued it to the left of the goal.
Yeah.
They did have a big penalty shout, which I've had a look back at, their first one, which Charlie Barker completely takes out their player. He got none of the ball, and it was definitely a penalty. But we haven't had our luck as well at times, so it is just the way it goes. But obviously, we would feel ashamed if that sent us down. Obviously, they're going to be gutted because that penalty would have taken them up and got them automatic promotion. So, it did feel like a 0-0 game overall, but maybe they just slightly edged it.
Yeah, I mean, look, the stats are the stats, right? So they had 57% possession to our 43. They had 17 shots, we had 12. Like I said, 5 big chances for them to 2 big chances for us. It's not a stat I particularly like, but XG, we had 0.73, they had 2.5. So, in theory, they probably sort of should have beaten us if you look at the numbers. What the numbers don't always take into consideration is heart, desire, passion, and a willingness to kind of put your body on the line. And I think that was, I saw that on Saturday more so definitely than I've seen all season. I mean, towards the end, Johnny Russell cleared a ball and he absolutely thumped it into the guy's face. It was clearly unintentional, but it bounced off the guy's face, cleared the east stand, and Johnny Russell celebrated like he'd scored a goal. It was just, there was a real atmosphere, there was a real sort of desire not to see us go down. Jack, did you feel we lost a little bit of the control in kind of midfield when Louis Copley went off in the first half?
I would say yes, and you could see it on the pitch. It kind of felt like a gap was there where most of their chances were coming from, because when I kept seeing we made like all these great attacks and stuff and they never got the ball, there was rarely anyone in midfield to actually fairly chase the ball.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think obviously when you've got those two sort of not holding midfielders, but when you've got Jay and Copley in there, obviously Taylor Richards came on and he's sort of slightly more advanced. But there was some huge performances. I mean, look, Louis Watson's had a great end to the season. Worked really hard. Asa, I know you sort of wrote about him earlier in the week as well. Yeah. And confessed your undying love to him on Saturday. Look, I've been super critical of Ryan Loft this season. I've never seen someone work so hard when they came on in the second half to make sure that obviously where he could just keep the ball up there, he did. He came back, he worked really hard for the team. It was a real sort of, team effort. Definitely didn't have much of a voice left by the end of it. And then, the rest of it's sort of a bit of a blur. All I remember is the next thing we were on the pitch cuddling Colin Richards and watching Toby Adeyemo being carried off on his dad's shoulders, and it was all a bit of a whirlwind. And the rain came and that made the game even more sort of exciting because it got a bit slippy and the surface got really slick, and people were flying in, and there was a Salford guy that was running around with his shirt ripped towards the end of the game, so every time he was running it looked like he had 3 arms. Like, it was just absolute chaos. Their fans were dressed as inflatable sumo wrestlers. They were throwing inflatables on the pitch. I've since seen videos of them walking from the station to the ground up the road all dressed up and setting off flares and all sorts. And I've seen a lot of criticism this week from their fans on social media saying that they celebrated like they'd won the league. And I think that probably just shows the difference between the two teams, right? And what that would have meant to us going down and what it means to us to kind of stay up is incredible. And I felt like everyone was in the same boat. There's videos of us helping Ryan Gilbert stick up posters. It was the atmosphere. It felt really carnival-like all day. It was a really good vibe, and I'm just pleased that it ended on a high rather than a low. So the big question is, officially, there's been no announcement. I think the general feeling around Colin's press conference is it feels like he's staying. Would you keep him, Asa? Are you happy to keep him?
Funny enough, just before I came on here, I just finished up an article writing on whether he should stay or not. In my personal opinion, I believe he should. I think it'd be unfair not to give him a go. Arguably, I think, it's more risk bringing him in with 7 games to go. So and it obviously paid off. So it makes sense. There's less risk involved giving him a whole season at it, and giving him he's going to have a pre-season with the players. He's going to bring in the players he wants. He's going to be able to sort of implement his style of play, tactics, etc. So he clearly, the players respect him. The fans obviously respect him for what he's come in and done. So for me, I think there's no reason why he shouldn't be given a go at it next season.
That's fair. And Jack, do you think he will make? I mean, listen, we'll get to it in a second, right? There's going to be a lot of turnover of players. We know that because of the way this season's gone and the players that have come in and the players that are still on the books and stuff. Do you think Colin can build a team to play to his system, whereas perhaps some of these players he sort of had to kind of shoehorn them in to fit and teach them his style? What do you think his style will be more attacking than what we saw under Scott Lindsay?
Absolutely. I mean, we watched Scott's tactics. It was kind of a bit of both defense into the attack. Like Colin came in, he kind of interpreted that, but made it his own way. He made it more so counter-attacking, get on the ball, make a counter-attack. But he didn't have a lot of time to adjust to his own tactic. But with the right depth and the right players to adapt to his tactic, it's pretty good looking here.
Okay, so review of the season. Last season, obviously we made the change late on again with Scott coming in when we were sort of down there and struggling. We went down by a point last year. We stayed up by a point this year. I suppose that is the ultimate of kind of swings and roundabouts, and what you get with one hand, you take away with the other. So it's been a disappointing season, right? 40 points from 46 games, 8 wins all year. I'm going to ask it. Highlight of the season, Jack, for you?
Highlight of the season. I don't want to sound like a type of man who's going to go for the very boring options, but I feel like a highlight of the season probably the January signings.
Okay, the excitement around them.
They came in with Orsi, Lolos, Chapman. They helped with us staying up.
Yeah, fair enough. Asa, highlight for you?
Probably being in that away end at Newport, I felt like obviously we had the subsidised travel, we had loads of people come up there. It was absolutely rocking. Obviously, we got the 2-0 win, which you now look back on and you think what a massive 3 points that was.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was just a good day out, really. And it was one of our 8 wins of the season. Colin's first away match, his first away win, and sort of we had that new manager bounce still, so there was sort of a bit of that excitement there as well. So I think that was probably my highlight.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to be, super boring. I'm going to go with Saturday. Right, it was the atmosphere, the result. Former owners milling around. It was a really really fun day from sort of start to finish. It was disappointing I didn't see Reggie, but we can't have it all, can we? There was a lot of nice things about the day. Pre-game, the sun was out. It was lovely, and then, like I say, it was a game of two halves, half in the sunshine and half in the rain. And the wetter it got, the scrappier it got. So good. Well, look, let's see what next season brings with Colin. So next is the players. So Asa, I know you have a list of players that are out of contract in terms of should we keep them, should they go. I suppose the loan players as well, in terms of what we do with those. And then I'm not going to say who should we bring in, right? I put something out there this week. Billy Sharp's available on a free transfer. He might be 40, but he's got 300 odd goals in the EFL. I'd give him a crack, because I think that's the one thing we've really lacked this season is goals. In any division at any level, you need 10 to 15 goals a season out of your striker. I feel like Orsi will probably, or would have got there under Colin maybe, had he not got injured. The style of play suited him a lot more. It was very much sort of back to our promotion season, balls over the top for him to run onto and stuff. So that was disappointing. But yeah, do you want to take us through your list, Asa, and then we'll give you our thoughts?
Yeah, of course. So we've got JJ Willicott, our goalkeeper. Obviously, he hasn't featured much this season, obviously, because we had Harvey Davies in at the start for the first half. Then we had Jacob Chapman come in. So we've got Scott Malone, who's out of contract, Josh Flint, Theo Vassell, Max Anderson, Harry Forster, Reece Brown, Anthony Papadopoulos, Louis Watson, Taylor Richards, Louis Flower, and Adi Adiemo. There's two players who I'm not sure on their contract situation at the moment. So you've got Jay Williams and you've got Dion Pereira. But yeah, those are definitely the confirmed players that are out of contract at the moment.
So everyone will keep Jay Williams forever, 100%. I don't think that's an issue. I think he's probably the one player that's come out of every game this season with some sort of credit in the bank, I think. Right, let's go through them. So Louis Watson, I'd sign him up. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. For eternity, Asa.
Yes. Yeah, a permanent signing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give him a 20-year contract.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, fine. So Louis Watson. I mean, I personally, if Dion Pereira is out of contract, I would keep him. I think he's been really good in flashes this season, but I think for a large portion of this season, the style and the setup didn't necessarily suit. But I would keep him. I think his stats have looked good this season. He's our top assist provider. So that I would keep him. Gents, what are you thinking on Dion?
I think as you said with the sort of stats, I think he is one of our most creative players. I think he's under Scott. He sort of played a lot more out wide. Yeah. Whereas I think his better position is infield in sort of that 10, that attacking midfielder
he played a lot of wing back, didn't he, at the start of the season?
Yeah, and it didn't suit him. A bit like a few of the players under Scott. They didn't quite suit that style of play. Obviously, under Colin, sort of changed around, and obviously that suited them more. But yeah, Dion Pereira is one I'd sign back up.
Okay, Jack, Dion.
Yeah, I'd keep Dion Pereira.
Okay, good. Louis Flower. I mean, look, I think in flashes, there's a player in there. Is he going to score 10, 15 goals a season? I'm not sure. Again, it's hard to gauge because we only really saw him in the Scott system, and every forward we had struggled in that system, right? So it's unfair to level the criticism at him in particular. I mean, I don't know. In stages, I thought, yeah, there's a player in there. I would be a little bit on the fence, I think, for me.
Yeah, I think the problem is he got into the side and then he fell out of it because he picked up an injury, and it was only when he started to get going and then he got an injury, and that sort of really halted him. Obviously, he's gone out on loan to Woking, and he didn't feature much because I think he picked up another injury. But yeah, no, there's definitely a player in there. But yeah, we haven't. I don't think I've seen enough of him to really make a judgment.
Yeah, Jack.
He's a tough one to discuss about because you've not really seen him much this season. Because obviously, like we've said, he's been sidelined with injuries. He went on loan to Woking, and like on his third match, gets another injury, comes back here. I've not really seen enough of him. I would like him to prove himself.
Okay. I mean, look, we shall see. I mean, Scott Malone's an interesting one because I'd keep him because I think he's a really good head to have around the club, that old sort of pro mentality. I don't think he was brought in with a view to him playing as much football as he's played this season at his age, and given how much football he played perhaps in the last couple of seasons. But look, that said, he's given everything every time he's played, and at times has been fueled by energy bars, right, during the game. So look, I would keep Scott. I think, I wasn't overly enamoured when he came back. I thought, seems a bit strange, but there's definitely a player there and a leader on the pitch, and hopefully, off it as well. So I'd keep Scott Malone around.
Yeah, I think so. I think he, whatever capacity it might be in next season, maybe he takes more like a coaching role. I don't know, but I definitely think he'd like to stick around at the club. I think he made such a difference coming into that back line. You could just see how much more composed we were, how much more organised we were, and yeah, he definitely made a massive difference. So I'd love if he stayed on, whatever capacity it is.
I would like to first of all apologise to Scott Malone, because when he came back, I wasn't expecting him to come back. I thought after last time I wouldn't see him in a Colin shirt again. But this year he has proved me 20 times wrong than I thought he'd be. He's been so crucial on that back line, and on the last of the season, every time they had a counter attack, he was just there.
Yeah, he seemed to have an extra yard in his legs suddenly on Saturday.
Yeah, I know.
So that was good. The biggest question mark in there for me is the next one, and that's Josh Flint. I would 100% keep Josh Flint.
Yeah.
Is Josh Flint going to want to stay? Is the question. Look, I think conversation we had on the way back from Swansea with Scott Lindsay at the time, there were clubs interested in Josh at the time, and they were actively trying not to sell him. I'd keep him. I hope he'd want to stay. I don't know. He might see himself as a League One player. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's a no-brainer. We'd all keep Josh Flint, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Theo Vassell, again, similar. I think when he came into our back line, he brought in some composure. He seemed to love defending. He will head everything all day long. Obviously injured. Picked up quite a nasty injury, but I would like to think we keep him at the club for next season. I'd be really excited to see him and sort of Charlie Barker alongside each other for a full season, to see where that took us and how much more composed that back line would be, because I think the two fullbacks now, when they're fit, Kellen and Johnny Russell, will kind of go forward. So to have two really solid centre backs would be good. AC keeper Theo?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's another one of those players, like what we said with Louis Flower, that actually got in really good form and then found themselves with an injury again, and it was a real shame to see him, because I think he could have
I think it was too much football too quickly for him. Sadly.
Yeah, because he'd been out. He hadn't had a club for the first half of the season.
Yeah.
And
then suddenly we're asking to play 90 minutes twice a week, and you're going to get a
muscle. Yeah, it was probably too soon. But yeah, no, definitely one keep for next season.
Yeah, Jake, you keeping Theo?
I would love to keep Theo myself.
Good stuff. Taylor Richards was on your list?
Yeah, he is. I think he came in on New Year's Day, same as Theo Vassell. And when we first saw him against Barnet, I thought, obviously he was getting up to match fitness again, but I thought he showed a real glimpse of what he can do, and obviously he's produced some real magic goals for us at important times. Gillingham, Barrow,
great goal,
and Accrington was the other one,
yeah.
I think. So yeah, another player that I keep.
I'd keep him. I think there's a real player in there. I see him as a sort of 10, ideally. I think when he first came in with the influx of January players and trying to get Lolos and Darcy in the side behind Orsi, Taylor was forced back a bit, and he's not someone that's going to put his foot on the ball and dictate the pace of play and things like that. He's a flair player. He could shoot from outside the box. That was something we just didn't have in the first half of the season. And he runs at people and he frightens people. And you know, if you can run at people, sometimes they're going to make a mistake and you get those things. So, good. I'd keep Taylor. Anyone else want to keep him? Lose him?
Got a quick question on that one, though.
Go on.
Got a quick question on that one. Do you think, similarly with Dion Pereira, actually, do you think they're more of people we keep as those impact subs, or do you think they're starters?
Depends who comes in, really. I think that's ultimately the kind of question. I think that these guys have got the shirt at the moment, and they've taken those shirts off of people, right? So for example, since Taylor Richards came in, we've not seen Reece Brown. Reece Brown's not been in a matchday squad, right? Whereas in the first half of the season, Reece Brown was in the squad, right? So you would say he's moved ahead of Reece Brown in the pecking order. Therefore, if both their contracts are up, you release Reece Brown, you offer Taylor Richards a new deal, right? That would be the logic in my mind. You know, there's a massive unknown quantity in there in Danny Cashman as a number 10, right? So, you know, there was a lot of hopes around Danny Cashman coming into this season, and in pre-season he looked a decent player. He's unfortunately, you know, he's been hampered by injury this season. We've not seen enough of him. But ultimately, I guess, under Colin or whoever takes over as manager, you've got a whole pre-season to sort of impress and sort of try and earn those shirts. I think you are maybe a little bit old school. I believe you sort of start with a group and everybody gets a fair shake of the tree. You make your choice, and if they play well, if they score goals, if they're getting assists, then they keep the shirt, and it's up to someone else to try and get it off them when they come on and sort of make an impact. And I do think that's something we lacked a little bit this season because we were, let's be real, poor for a lot of the season. The people coming on weren't able to impact and influence games, and then you go, okay, well, they didn't come on and take the shirt off of that person. So we go back to what we had at the start of that game, and same action, same result. So this season's shown, right, you need a squad of players. We've had a massive turnover of players. We've had a huge squad, but we've also had a hell of a lot of injuries, right? So you need to have the players across the competitions, across the games. What we've lacked a little bit this season compared to last season and compared to the promotion season was the ability to change things up based on the opposition. So, if we go away to a top of the table team, you maybe leave someone like a Taylor Richards out and you have a Max Anderson in the midfield with Jay Williams to give you that a more solid base. And then if you're at home against Newport, then you throw that number 10 in and you lose the other central defensive midfielder. We've not had those sort of decisions to make this season. So I just think from where we are now, we just build a squad. And then it's up to them to go out and become a starter and earn that spot. Anyone else on the list, Asa? Have I missed anyone?
You touched Max Anderson.
Okay, I'd keep Max. I like Max. I think he's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a good footballer.
I think he brings something different to the midfield as well. I think.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then I think these two I think are interesting. Harry Forster and Adi Adeyemo. I think Harry Forster. Yeah, I think Harry Forster. I think he gets a lot of criticism because he doesn't quite have that sort of strength to sort of get away from defenders. But I actually think for someone quite small, he's actually very fast. And I think he works really hard for the team.
I really like Harry Forster. I think he's a good player. I think he's a different option to have. He's had... So promotion season, he was sort of a bit of a squad player. He came in and he came off the bench and he would come in and out the side a little bit. He was almost back up to Nick Cerula in the promotion season. And then Lawrence Maguire was that kind of left-sided centre-back that would come forward. He's had sort of 2 seasons to sort of nail down a spot and make it his own, and he's not been able to do that. I mean, I would keep Harry Forster. I think it's probably time maybe to part with Adi Adeyemo, which is sad, but he's not quite looked the same player this year. Not quite as terrifying when he runs at people, doesn't seem to have as much control of the ball, but that could just be because, like so many of the players and the whole team, I guess, maybe devoid of confidence. Jack, would you keep them both, let them both go, keep one, lose one? What would you do?
Ideally, in a world, I'd like to keep both, but I do feel like Adeyemo, we might part ways with him.
I think, look, go on, Asa.
No, I think Colin. I think he's one of Colin's favourites, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The way he sort of talks about him and the way he tried to include him. Obviously, he found that new position at right back, and Colin was very sort of persistent in trying to fit him in the team in whatever capacity. Maybe he's one that he want to keep. The manager himself will want to keep on next season.
Maybe, and look, you make a great point there, right? He came in at right back and filled in for Colin. Maybe that's his new role, but maybe he needs sort of a pre-season with some coaches teaching him to play that role. Because you do sort of feel like he could go flying in and give away a penalty. He could, there could be those things. I mean, offensively he's fine. But yeah, I mean, look, I suppose the other side of the coin is, right, if Colin is going to build a team, he's got to create the space in the roster, so to speak, to be able to register new players. So there's going to be some loan players going back. We'll get to them in a sec. What I would say is it's a real difficult one. And I said this to you on Saturday when you interviewed me, Asa. I don't for 1 minute believe any player this season has gone out and not given 100% and done their best. I think we've lacked quality individually and as a group at times. How do you make those decisions? Because even as fans, you know, our players are right there. We can interact with them. We can talk to them. So we have an affinity to them all the time anyway, right? So it's really hard to pick and choose who to get rid of and who to, you know, and the bit we can't equate into this is, you know, how many of these players don't want to stay, right? Or feel like they want to move away. You know, Max Anderson might want to go back to Scotland. Like, there's so many sort of variables along the way too. But let's talk loan players.
Do you mind if I can ask about a player quickly?
Yeah.
I don't know how long's left on his contract, but what would you guys think about Dion Conroy?
Personally, I think Conroy's had his day at the club. I think he's still got a couple of years left on his deal.
He's got 1 year left. He's got
Okay.
1 year left, yeah.
And I've just realised we missed Jojo out of the list. Look, I always liked Jojo. I always thought he was a good keeper. There was clearly some issue towards the back end of the League One season with fitness or something else that meant we kept having to bring in emergency goalkeepers. He didn't start the season as number one. He came in for a couple of games. He was definitely in goal away at Bromley when we were there, and a couple of games after that. I didn't think he ever did anything wrong. And then Harvey Davies got fit again. And I guess there's probably something in the loan agreement with Liverpool that says if he's fit, he starts, right? So, look, Jojo, great professional, great guy, lovely fella to have around, always stops and has got time for people. But I got the feeling he maybe wanted to go last summer. So now is maybe his chance. I think he's lost his place in the Ghana squad because he's not been playing football. And so... like any of them, anyone that goes, it'll be sad to see, but wish them all the best. And yeah, I mean, look, for me personally, I think Dion Conroy's had his day. I don't think he was anywhere near good enough this season, and people have their own views on it. My view is you can't have the captain of your club arguing with the fans in the middle of a game. That's not a good look, but that's just me. So loan players, we'll go from back to front. I take it we would all sign Jacob Chapman and give a kidney each to pay for him and sell a leg. I'm prepared to sell my son to keep Jacob Chapman.
Excuse me.
I said to Erdem, I said if I earn a wage, I said to Erdem, if I earn a wage, I'll be paying that to keep Jacob.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think everyone would love to keep Jacob, right? He's come in. I think, he's not far off. A clean sheet every other game. I think in near enough his stats. 3 consecutive player of the months. Then didn't get nominated in April, and then was, like I say, FOTMob's man of the match on Saturday. Last seen bouncing up and down on top of fans and on top of the dugouts, I believe. Did post a kind of lovely farewell message. I'd love to keep him. Great guy, lovely to talk to. I think he's very highly rated at Huddersfield. Certainly some Huddersfield fans I spoke to earlier in the season were quite disappointed that he'd gone out on loan, and I think he's he's got a real opportunity to go back there in the summer and stake a claim for their number one shirt for sure. I think he's definitely better than League Two.
Oh yeah.
So wish him all the best and thank him for what he did to kind of keep us up, because of the January signings, he did his part. The goals didn't go in at the other end necessarily, so he maybe had to keep more clean sheets than you would have anticipated when he came in. But yeah, we didn't have... Did we have any defenders on loan? Can't think of... Let me grab the squad list, because we've got so many players, it's impossible to remember them all.
Just remember the player we've not touched on from the list.
Go on. Who have I missed?
Papadopoulos.
Yeah.
Papadopoulos.
He's never really made a start there, as he's, unfortunately.
No, I'd see him going to where he's been on loan twice before. I think it's Maidenhead United.
Yeah, quite possibly. So, defender, midfielder, Badger Army on loan from Burton. Obviously was quite heavily involved in the team at the start of the season. Dropped out a bit towards the end. I don't know if he's injured or it just didn't sort of fit. But I don't think I'm too fussed about him coming back next season. He did a good job, but didn't put up trees, I wouldn't have said.
No, I think the problem was we didn't quite see the best of him because he got moved to centre back for sort of a large majority of when he played for us. Didn't quite work out there. I thought he was good alongside Jay Williams in that sort of that pivot, that double pivot. So he's a solid player, but not one that I'd say, oh yeah, we desperately want him back.
No. Next one, I would take him back, Louis Copley. I think there's a player in there. I think you can see in phases of play the kind of Premier League upbringing, the touches, the way he shields the ball, he can pass. I mean, he's 19 years old, and he's going back to Harry Forster being quite a small lad for his age. Louis Copley's probably quite a big lad for his age. He's got the physique of a grown man and didn't look out of place in League Two. Sometimes, players that come through Premier League academies adjusting to getting bashed around each week down in League Two isn't easy. I mean, I would love to see him back next year.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I love about him is he's obviously got that real energy. He's very much like a box-to-box midfielder. He does the defending side and also makes those runs. I think it was one of our first opportunities against Salford on Saturday. I think he made a run, but the goalkeeper sort of closed the angle down. But he's really got that sort of box-to-box, which I think is a great quality to have as a midfielder.
Jack, having Copley back next year?
I'd like to see him back.
Good. Clyde Lolos. So Peterborough have taken the unusual step of posting a list on social media of all their players they're prepared to sell. One of which is Clyde Lolos. Came back, got a couple of goals, a goal. Unfortunately, disappeared sort of since Scott's departure. We've not seen much of Clyde. For me, logic says he's come back. He's probably on more money than when he was here the first time, but he's not really delivered. I mean, he got sent off on his first game back, and got himself banned for 3 games. Obviously, since he's left Crawley, he's gone to Bolton. He's then been at Peterborough. He's not done a huge amount. I mean, I was having this discussion on Saturday with Josh, who couldn't be with us this evening because he's busy. But I was saying, we let a lot of these players go, obviously, after the promotion run, because they were probably never going to be worth that amount of money again, right? And I think we have definitely seen elements of that this season with those players coming back, I think it's probably time for us to say goodbye to Clydie and wish him all the best in his future endeavours. I certainly, I wouldn't look to spend money on him right now. If Peterborough wanted to give him to us and the wages weren't horrendous, then maybe I would look at that. But gents, what are you thinking on Clydie?
Jack, do you want to go first?
Sure. Like you said, Clydie Loss was good in the promotion season. He would have never been worth that today. It'd be nice to see him stay again, but if the wages are there, I'd be happy just to let him continue his career and just thank you for what he did.
Lovely. Go on, Asa.
Yeah, no, similar really. I think, a lot of the players that came back, you are sort of always comparing them to what they were in that first stint with the club. But obviously, they haven't been nowhere near the heights that they reached when they first were here. I think also, the struggle was they're coming back into a side that wasn't functioning properly, low in confidence, so that obviously would affect it. But yeah, we'll wish him well. Thank you for everything he did.
Likewise, Ronan Darcy. Look, what a guy, right? I think Ronan Darcy, cult hero, loved by the Crawley fans. It appears there's been, similar to Clydie, some kind of issue. Maybe, you're a sort of Scott signing and you don't necessarily fit in, but even when we were really low on sort of attacking options towards the back end of the season, a bit like Lolos, we didn't see Darcy. He wasn't in the squads, but he was still around the ground. He was still supporting the lads, but again, sort of fairly ineffective, really. And I suppose another one that moved on, went to Wigan, didn't work out there. Went on loan to Chesterfield, did okay, but again, then lost his place. Again, I would assume he's on a lot more money now than he was first time round. I don't think pains me, but I don't think I would sign him back up for next season. Asa?
Yeah, same. Yeah, same here.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to agree with you. I do love Ryan Darcy, but it's not going to work out, unfortunately, and I do wish him all the best.
The next one is Toby Adeyemo.
Can I start?
Go on.
I'd love to keep him.
Okay.
He's like a fun atmosphere. He's really good.
Yeah, he's a strange one because he's played an awful lot of football, and I feel like he's someone that the more football he plays, the better he'll get. It was a strange signing, sort of mixed in with all these experienced players we were bringing back in January. He came in from Watford on loan, having been, I think he was in the National League or National League South. So it was a bit of a strange one, and then he didn't quite appear because Orsi came back in, and then he came back. Listen, I think there's a player in there, and despite the fact he looks about 60, he's only sort of 21, and there could be a player in there. I think you're right, Jack. He's good fun. He feels like he had a real affinity to the club and a real affinity with the fans. So I'd give him a go next season. Asa?
Yeah, I think the work rate he puts in, and I think he struggled at times because we've played with one striker, and obviously he's had to do a lot of work. But his work rate and how much he runs and what he puts in for the team is really commendable. Obviously, I think he was bought as someone who would start under Scott. Obviously, then Orsi potentially he came available, so then obviously he came in, so that's maybe why we didn't see as much of him. But obviously, when Colin came in, Orsi and Adeyemo played together, and I thought the two strikers up top worked really well. But yeah, no, I think he's a really nice guy, and yeah, I'd like to see him back.
And then the last one is Ryan Loft. Not for me.
No.
I'm just going to leave it at that. Not for me.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Like I said, he came on Saturday and he proved me wrong. And there was a moment in my mind pre-game where I thought, does he come on and score the goal that keeps us up and sort of become this cult hero, despite the fact that, you know, he's had a bit of a sort of rough season. I mean, look, I was at Borehamwood. That was a real low point that day. And unfortunately, him and Dion Conroy were kind of the lowest of the low that day. It was a poor day. He then disappeared for 6 months. I mean, the first few months of the season, for a guy that's so tall, he couldn't win a header, which amazed me. He came back after disappearing for 5 months and could head the ball, which was great. But yeah, like, he got a couple of goals, but not for me. I think he's one of those where you kind of free up the space and see what else is kind of out there and available.
Yeah.
Delicately done, Asa. I like it. Jack, I'm well aware of your thoughts on Ryan Loft. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Cool. So as we wind towards the end of the last of the 25-26 season pods, what are your realistic hopes for next season? Not oh yeah, we're going to get promoted, everything's going to be amazing, we're going to win the league on 110 points and all that stuff. I don't fancy another relegation scrap. I'm bored of that now. I've done that for 2 years. I would quite happily sit here right now and take mid-table mediocrity next season and sort of build on it. Asa, what are you thinking?
We've had 4 seasons of absolute rocky, nervy seasons, and I think it's now time to sort of get some stability, have a nice mid-table finish. We're on the beach by February. Your season's done. You can have a relax.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Jack, what are you hoping for? The same, or are you going to be more ambitious than us?
I'd like to be in the mid-table by at least January, and I can enjoy the rest of my season knowing I never have to go back down to that side of the table again.
Fair enough. Good stuff. Well, look, firstly, thank you to everyone that stopped by and has been part of the fan interviews that we started up towards the end of this season. They've been well received. If we can pay Asa enough money, he might come back and do them again next season. If not, we'll bring him in on loan. So that's where we'll be. I mean, look, there'll be pods over the summer. We're going to be doing some support stories. There's some people out there with some really interesting stories of why Crawley and stuff. And I guess, as players come and players go, we will need to sit down. My question to you today, before we finish, is, Asa, who's going to win the World Cup?
Oh, come on, we've got to go England, obviously.
Okay, fair enough. Jack,
Could
what
be
do you
anyone
say?
else, did it?
Much as I want to say England, I'm not going to have the delusional of England. I'd like it, but I have 2 in mind.
Go on.
The more realistic one is Spain.
Yeah.
And the one I really want is Portugal.
Okay. I mean, I think the climate, the temperatures that they're talking about out there is gonna suit a South American team. It's not a Brazil side that's stacked with superstars this time round, but I think it's a good team. The Brazil team is a good team this year, so we shall see. So appreciate both your time. Thank you for joining me this season, and I look forward to speaking to you over the summer, and we shall be back when the football's back. from us for now. Take it easy.
Enjoy.
Yeah, bye bye.